Can you spot the difference between these two clips? Because one of them was shot on a $70,000 ARRI camera and the other one was shot on my $2,500 Blackmagic Pocket 6K Pro. So how'd you do? If you guessed that Cam A was the Pocket 6K and Cam B was the ARRI, you'd be wrong. Cam A was the ARRI 35 and Cam B was my Pocket 6K Pro. Now for most people, ARRI is pretty much the king of the Hollywood cinema camera world. And anytime they come out with a not only new camera like body or accessories, but a new sensor, it usually shakes the entire industry. Now what is the point of doing this? One, because it's fun and this is my video and I can do whatever I want. But two, it's interesting to see how close cameras can get and kind of match together in different scenarios when their budget is so astronomically far apart. So recently when I saw ARRI release a bunch of sample footage, put it on their website to download, I spent over 3 days downloading 1.2 terabytes of sample footage. I got really curious, how does this compare to my Pocket 6K Pro? And so I handpicked a bunch of ARRI raw clips and then went through all of the footage that I've shot with my Pocket 6K Pro and tried to find clips that match specific scenarios. It's not the perfect scientific test, but it gives some very clear insight as to why there is such a cost difference between these cameras and should help people like you and me who probably don't have a camera that expensive still get the most out of it. Now there are a ton of reasons why a camera would cost a lot or a little. Of course, some of that includes the materials and R&D that go into building the actual housing, and there's no real debate. I mean, Blackmagic's body styles are usually pretty plasticky, and you can definitely tell that's where they have a lot of their cost saving methods. Whereas ARRI is on all sorts of set all around the world in different temperatures and dust and wind and snow and rain.
You could pour a beer in here and you might do something to the fan, but nothing else is gonna. We have a picture somewhere of a completely dust-caked camera. It was some TV series that we were shooting out in the desert. Do you remember which one that was?
It's the Grand Tour.
The Grand Tour, yeah. You know, they would take some canned air at the end of every day. They'd stick it in the top and blow all the dust out the bottom.
Yeah.
And you're done. And that's really the most cleaning you need to do, because that dust is never going to get to the electronics.
By the way, I kind of feel like I'm going to get a bunch of comments saying like, I'm saying ARRI wrong and it's ARRI. I always forget. Porsche, whatever. You know what, now I'm self-conscious and we're gonna decide for the rest of this video if I'm saying it right.
No, ARRI has actually never...
All right, Potato Jet says ARRI and he's friends with them, so I'm gonna switch it up, ARRI. Now on this channel, we talk about comparing cameras a lot. And it's not always just comparing them, but also how to make one camera look like another. And I want to reveal to you one of my biggest secret tools that I've been using, and that is called CineMatch, which happens to be today's sponsor as well. CineMatch is a plugin designed for DaVinci Resolve, Final Cut, and Premiere, and allows you to choose from a list of supported cameras to match one another. Now I know what you're thinking, because I've already been there. Why do I need a plugin to do that? I can just import like iPhone footage and add a ARRI LUT on top of it. But it's not that simple, because the way an ARRI sensor works, I've said it 2 different ways in this bit, because the way the sensor works on the camera is different than the way the sensor of the iPhone inherently looks. So if you apply a utility LUT transform, it thinks it's starting with a certain amount of colors, contrast, gamma, all that stuff, and applying a change to it that isn't going to be accurate. So with CineMatch, you easily tell it which camera you actually shot on, whether it's an iPhone or a Sony or a Canon or a Blackmagic or a Zcam or ARRI or any others. And then you tell it what camera you want it to match the sensor data to. And then it's going to match your original camera to the new camera's sensor characteristics. So a lot of us have multiple cameras, but not the same one. So let's say you shot an interview and on camera A, you had had a Blackmagic, but then your B cam was a Sony. In the past, those have been pretty difficult to match up. You could do it, but you'd have to be a pretty decent colorist. Now it takes about 4 clicks, and not only does it quickly apply the look to match the camera, but it also gives you raw-like controls. I've used this utility for the past couple of years pretty much in every video where I'm trying to match one camera to another. I even used it to help Dave Mays out when he was working at Indie Mogul, and he did that trying to fool 𝗖𝗛𝗘𝗖𝗞 and Armando, where they shot Canon, ARRI, and iPhones trying to fool cinematographers, and we used CineMatch as kind of the base layer of getting those corrections. If you want to give CineMatch a try, click the link below for a free trial. You can totally download it, install it, play around with it, and see if it works for you and your footage. Huge thanks to CineMatch and Film Convert for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to matching these two cameras. Keep in mind, this is not a scientific video because of course the clips weren't shot at the same exact time. Also, lens choice makes a huge difference in quality because the IRIX Cine lenses that I'm using, which cost, you know, 1,300 bucks, I'm sure are nowhere near the match of, I don't know what lenses were exactly used in all of the different sample footage, but if it's, you know, ARRI primes or anything like that, I mean, those are $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 lenses individually. Also, the camera settings are not going to be matched. I wasn't able to find any of the EXIF data for the ARRI RAW files, so I have no idea what ISO, what shutter angle, or anything like that was used for these clips. So with all that in mind, let's check out why there's a $65,000 to $70,000 difference between these two cameras, and is it worth it? So if you haven't noticed the weird aspect ratio of this video, I have it set to the ARRI 35, did it again, ARRI 35's opened gate native resolution. So it's the full sensor readout essentially. So I'm cropping my Pocket 6K Pro footage, but the resolution of the ARRI 35 open gate is 4096 by 2304. So again, it's not the most high resolution camera out there, but anyway, let's compare it to my pocket camera. So the first example here is probably one of the easiest to kind of get wrong if you were to put them side by side, and that is this city scene. So if I play this here, this is the ARRI 35, and then we have my clip from, this is actually 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗏. Both clips are kind of cityscapes. You have relatively overcast days. It looks like the ARRI one is even more overcast. Mine had a little bit more sun. It was actually like right before golden hour. If you had a movie shot on the ARRI 35 and had to insert this Pocket 6K Pro clip, you could match these incredibly easy. Now, do we see any major difference in these two clips? And I'll be honest, like in my opinion, nothing super stands out. And then we get to one of the best examples of dynamic range, and that is this clip right here, which actually starts in a room that seemingly has no lighting in it whatsoever, just some light leaking from another room. And then they open up these double doors into a room that is receiving direct sunlight. We can see a perfectly well exposed exterior, not only the leaves and trees and stuff, but behind the leaves, you can see blue sky. We jump to this. I actually just shot the other day. This was actually shot at Shawshank. Thanks to my friends Cliff and Cajun for bringing me out for a shoot. So this shot is completely all natural. There's no artificial lighting anywhere. It's just the light coming in from the window and bouncing off of objects to kind of fill in his face. Now, from an exposure standpoint, both of these look great. If I jump to the Rec 709 conversion, I'm very happy with how my Pocket performed. I'm happy with the separation of colors. I think the noise levels also look fairly decent. If we look at darker areas like in the hat here, these are all still nice and black. And keep in mind, I just did a Rec 709 conversion. There is no grading to this whatsoever. This is where things start to differ quite a bit. So this is a macro shot of an eyeball. Looks awesome. This is from the ARRI. Definitely has a greener tint to it. Again, not sure what color temperatures that the camera was set to, what sort of lighting, all that stuff, no idea. But it's definitely a soft image and has an eyeball, which funny enough, when I got my IRIX 150 macro, I almost did the same exact shot. So that's pretty lucky. These are both logs straight out of camera. This is my Pocket 6K, but we can start to see the colors breaking or the lack of color depth. You will start to see if we go to the Rec. 709 conversion here, you can see not only is my pocket have it's way more noisy, the color noise is starting to get out of control. The transition from colors is just so seamless. So you start at like this kind of yellowish, which transitions to like this almost like really off-white color, and then in the greens, like the blend between colors is incredibly smooth. And when we start to get up to my pocket here, you can see that technically the whites of my eyes has a lot of pinkish hues to it, which is understandable from either getting color casts or just the color temperature, however I shot it, but also mix that in with noise. You start to get this banding where it just really starts to show the lack of variation in colors. It's not terrible, and it's definitely way past what 8-bit or even 10-bit is able to do. The handling of the noise is just honestly probably one of the biggest differences. And to the average person, you may not say, okay, that's not worth, 65 grand, but in Hollywood or to any major production, this is a huge reason to pay that much amount of money to get that cleaner of an image. You'll also notice that in terms of sharpness, have you noticed yet that like the top image is 6K and the bottom one is 4K? This clip may not be the best because they're both extremely shallow, so it's not fair to say like in and out. But if I go back to this clip here, does my top image, does that look significantly higher resolution than the bottom image in focus subject? No. Again, this is why the resolution race has a lot to do with marketing. So the next clip, this was kind of cool. This is a clip from ARRI, looks like the salt flats, and mine, although it's the same kind of scenic, empty background, mine was a lot more overcast, so you're not getting those really harsh shadows. So if mine was like ultra daytime, like if mine was almost high noon, like ARRI's clip, you would probably see even more of a difference. The colors are just incredible coming out of the ARRI 35. In mine, again, this is the Rec. 709 conversion. You can see that my skin tones look okay. They have some color noise to them, but everything kind of has a bluish tint. It's not the most color accurate thing in the world, right? But if we look at this ARRI clip, the horse's skin tones look incredible. If we look closely at the subject here, the reds of her, I don't know what that is called, but like sack or satchel pack, whatever on here, the reds, the greens, everything is, the separation between the colors is so abundantly clear. Even the blues of her shirt compared to the blues of her jeans, there's just so much color information that the average person isn't going to notice, but you're not going to notice because it looks like real life. And that information is so huge. The blacks of my pants, the shoes, those all look fine. They're not too noisy. We're not getting any blocking. The greens of kind of island in the background look good. There's definitely a huge clarity difference in terms of lens. Again, I'm using a $1,200 or $1,300 lens compared to a seemingly $40,000 or whatever price lens. Here's a ultra low light difference, and here's another great difference between the dynamic range when it comes to like fire elements. Now, I believe this clip was probably solely lit by the fire. Now, my shot here was actually still shot during the day. It was pretty much blue hour. The sun had just set a handful of minutes ago. What's the first thing that stands out to you? On the bottom, we can see that both her face is perfectly well exposed and the entire flame is still within the data. So if we jump in to mine here, you can see the scopes at the bottom. Like those flames are gone. Like there's no saving them. If I bring them all the way down, they're still clipped. That data just is incapable of being captured at the exposure we were at. But if I jump to the ARRI one, look at that. All that data is 1,000% there. All right, so now we can dissect the first clip that I showed you guys, which I've already told you which was which, but this of course is the ARRI 35s, and this was mine. If we look at mine, again, it's well exposed, nothing is crazy clipped, both the shadows are nice, the sun coming in on some of the rocks, kind of more harsh, are still in. And of course, if we go to the ARRI one, same story, right? Like these trees that are getting direct sunlight aren't clipped, our shadows aren't crushed. If we hop over to the Rec 709 and make this a little bit bigger, you can see that there's a lot of similarities, but again, we run into that like color issue, that color noisy, like, I don't even know if I'm saying the right terms, if it has to do with bit depth or if it's just how the sensor handles colors and it's color science. Like whatever that color issue is, it's just leaking all over the place. Everything down here, the trees, you know, are like just crazy accurate in terms of, you know, what a tree is supposed to be, and a colorist can go in and greatly change that. Here, we're getting so much color spill from not my skin tones, but it's bouncing off of other woods. Like this wood was not this shade of red, and you can see on this side of the tree, it's very green because this is, it almost like is blending in to the background. Here, even the out of focus trees, look at that clear distinction between like this is green foliage and this is a tree. Here it's just like, it almost looks like a ghosting effect. That is crazy. And finally, our last clip, this is just a very clean portrait. I can't tell if this is studio or just really like overcast day, but we have that. And then a shot that I did in the studio. Again, this is not scientific. I had a Dream Effects filter on here, so that is why it looks all glowy, but this is very soft studio lighting as well. And I just wanted to see how it converted with, you know, the lip texture and the skin texture was very close between these two models. And again, if the project called to match these two clips together, I'm confident that you could do that very easily with matching skin tones if you wanted them to look like the exact same color, lips, all that stuff. So what do we learn from comparing this $70,000 camera to a less than $3,000 camera? We learned that it's all about exposure, set design, lighting, basically every other aspect of the image coming together to create the best possible image you can, regardless of the sensor capturing it. Yes, when you have a camera that has low dynamic range, it's going to make shooting a naturally lit interior while also retaining the exposed exterior all in the same image much harder. You're gonna have to like light the interior with artificial lighting to try to match the sun. So you may have to do a lot more to get the same image than if you just put the ARRI 35 on a tripod and hit record, but it is possible to get incredible looking images regardless of the camera you have if you focus on learning the fundamentals. Yes, those budget cameras are still going to have limitations, which is why super expensive and super amazing cameras like the ARRI 35 exist for the people who do the work that justifies the cost. But I'm incredibly happy with how my Blackmagic Pocket held up in most of these scenarios. So what do you guys think? That is the ARRI 35 versus the Pocket 6K Pro. I would love to hear what you guys think down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this style of video and want me to compare more cameras from ridiculous pricing differences, let me also know down there. Again, huge thanks to Film Convert for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to check out their links down in the description so that you can have one plugin to give a really unique film emulation to all your footage. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.